to do our program because Madame Emmanuel, who is there at present in front of us, but she couldn't, she is a little older lady and she couldn't own that microphone. So we will take her tomorrow and she will be, so now Madame Admin will present.
Okay, ma'am.
Wait 2 minutes, she will come now. That's what next is. Actually, can you see Emmanuel Madam? She's going here and there and she couldn't to just own that microphone. Can you see the madam moving here and there and she was talking to my sister regarding
madam.
the microphone. But doesn't matter. It is a little oh man. Minana.
character like that.
Really, university in France, and but those days we didn't have this Google Meet, all those things. No, so she doesn't know. Yes, madam has come back. Yeah. Yes, madam. J'invite madame directeur. Les sujets, les francophonies et la francophonie.
Je suis née en Europe, en France, en Océanie. Je suis née en Afrique et moi en Amérique. Je suis née en Asie. Nous sommes tous des enfants du monde, de pays différents. Mais nos mots et nos chants jouent à la même ronde, écoutés dans le vent.
J'ai grandi en Europe, en France,
En Océanie, j'ai grandi en Afrique et moi en Amérique. J'ai grandi en Asie. Nous sommes tous des enfants du monde, de pays différents. Mais nos mots et nos chants jouent à la même ronde, écoutés dans le vent.
Voice not yet, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear now?
Yes, ma'am.
madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you able to hear the sound of the song?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what did you understand from the song?
Ma'am, introduce ourselves, ma'am.
Okay, introduce yourself. Were you able to see the countries that were represented? It had come in small letters at the back of the song, because you had one child saying "Je suis né en France," another person said Oceanie, another person said Afrique, another person said Asie. All right, so that's what I wanted you to take from the song, because my subject today is Francophonie, and I will just share my PPT. One minute. Voila. Can you see my slides, children?
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So la francophonie et les francopholies. Now, what do you understand from the word francophonie? You can get a clue from the cartoon over here. Je parle français et moi aussi. So what do you think francophonie is? Why don't you guess francophonie? You must have heard about the word anglophony, n'est-ce pas? In English, anglophone. Have you heard of the word anglophone? Anglophone? Who's an anglophone? Yes? Somebody said it right. Vijay said it right.
French speaking.
Yes, French speaking. Francophone is French speaking. Anglophone is English speaking. All right? So francophone is people who speak French. Oh, bugger. Okay. So this is the song we just saw. Une ode à la francophonie pour les enfants et les grands. It briefly presents the various countries that come under this global term francophonie. So let's look at some facts about francophonie. The word francophone is a French word. It was invented in 1860 by a French geographer called Onésime Reclus. So in 1860, which is the 19th century, he brought out this word to refer to geographical areas where French was spoken. So wherever French was spoken, that place was known as francophone. French was reserved to people living in France, and those who were living outside of France came under the broad umbrella francophone. All right? But today it is much more. It is much more than French speaking. So it's interesting to know that earlier TV Sang was known as the French channel. You have a tvsang.fr, which is only for the French people, but they also have a TV channel, a media channel, which is dedicated to francophonie, and that is called TV Sang Monde. And Monde, as you know, means world, because there are many areas today in the world that speak French. All right? And it's also interesting that next week on the 20th is known as International Francophonie Day, and many events are organized by an association called the OEF, which we'll be looking at shortly. I'll be explaining what they're doing this year to you. All right? So, La Francophonie, qu'est-ce que c'est? I got this information from this website of this organization I spoke about. It is l'Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, OEF. In English, it is called the IOF, International Organization of Francophonie. In French, it is OEF. So, according to them, la francophonie, c'est tout d'abord des femmes et des hommes qui partagent une langue commune, le français, which is like what the gentleman said at the beginning. Everybody who speaks French comes under this umbrella francophonie. All right. And the organization OEF also has a symbol. You have these 5 colors coming together. Can you sort of get, it's like the Olympic circles, right? But it's different. So just like in the Olympic circles, each circle represents a continent. In the circle having 5 different colors, each color represents a different continent, because in each continent of this world, there is a part of the people who use French on a daily basis. And Francophone, it's very funny, we don't have this concept in English. I don't know whether we have it in English. I searched, I couldn't find. But in French, francophonie with a small f, francophonie avec le f minuscule, the small f, refers to people and countries where French is spoken. All right? Okay, now let's go to the keep this in mind. Now let's go to the second part of francophonie. I took this from their website. Don't worry at the big names. First, let me read it, because this is supposed to be a webinar in French. So let me read it, because we have to show we know a little French here and there, right? So, c'est ensuite, then, c'est ensuite un dispositif institutionnel voué à promouvoir. Remember this word, promouvoir. Promouvoir means to promote. Promouvoir le français et à mettre en œuvre une coopération politique, éducative, économique et culturelle au sein des 88 États et gouvernements de l'Organisation internationale de la francophonie. So your 2 main words here are promote French language and initiate or establish cooperation on many levels, 4 different levels: political, educational, economical, and cultural. And this is within the 88 member countries of this organization. So you can see how huge francophonie is. When we think about French, we think only of France. But it's no longer only France. When you know French, remember, you can connect with 88 countries around the world. All right? So this is the mission of the OEF, promote French, promouvoir le français. Et mettre en œuvre also means establish cooperation on 4 levels: political, educational, economical, and cultural. All right? So this is their charter. Everything, they have a very formal charter, which was established in 1997. And they also have a summit. This is not like the summit of a mountain, but the sommet, meaning an annual summit, an annual meeting, in which they discuss various aspects related to francophonie. They also have a secretary general, just like the UN has a general secretary. The OEF has a general secretary, and this year it is Louise Mushikiwabo. And this second part of francophonie, which is the cultural, economic, political aspect, is known as francophonie with a capital F. Francophonie with a small f was only the language, only the linguistic part of the term. And the second part of the term, which is much broader, comes under francophonie with a capital F. All right? So whenever you're reading a text in French and you have francophonie with a small f, it's meaning to, it points to people speaking the language, understanding the language. And if it is francophonie with a capital F, it refers to everything else: cultural, politics, education, economics, etc. Have you understood that? The difference between francophonie and francophone, capital F and small f? Ça va? Oui?
Oui, madame.
Okay.
Oui, madame.
Très bien. Go burger. Okay, now let's go on. What is their mission? Remember the first word, promouvoir? Promouvoir, what does that mean? It came in the previous slide. What is promouvoir?
To promote.
Yes. So what are they promoting? Remember, language. The first thing they promote is the language and cultural diversity. All right, promote. Again, their second part of their mission is promote, but this time what are they promoting? Pay. What do you think pay is? Pay is a very common thing all of us crave for these days. What do you think pay is? P-A-I-X. Pay, democracy, and droit de l'homme. What do you think pay is? P-A-I-X. What does that mean, children? What do you think it means? Just guess. Pax Romana. Have you heard of the Pax Romana? Romana. Have you heard of that? No? Okay, Pe means peace. Pax Romana is what the Romans did years back. But this is the French term of the Latin word. So it is peace. So they promote peace, democracy, and human rights. Droit de l'homme is human rights. Appuyer is to support. They support education, training, and higher studies and research. And they also develop la coopération économique au service du développement durable. So look at the word durable. Remember that because everybody is talking about that today. Sustainable development. You just don't go to an area, do something and disappear. You have to make sure that what you do in that area is sustainable. It can go on in the future when you're not there. So développement durable is sustainable development. All right? Promoting language, promoting peace, democracy, human rights, supporting education in all forms, and developing sustainable economic development. So this is the definition of OEF, which is the Center of Francophonie. D'accord? And then we have one more video. I'm not going to play this video for you because I don't think we have time, but I'm putting the video link in your chat box. You can look at it later. It is a video that has been released by OEF in which it explains, it's a French video, but it has subtitles in English. So it clearly tells you what exactly is Francophone and how they go about what they do. All right? So now let's go back to my slides. So these are some statistics I took from the OEF website. 321 million French-speaking people in the world today. That is a huge number. French is the 5th world language. We'll look at the others shortly. There are 93 million students who learn French through French. We are learning French through English, all right? But there are 93 million children who are learning French as an official medium of instruction. And when it comes to searches on the internet, French is number 4 on the list. First is English. English and Mandarin keep interchanging, but number 4 is definitely occupied by French. And 51 students like you and me, 51 million people like you and me, we are learning French through various means today, right? So these statistics gives you a broad idea on how important Francophonie is today. It's not only France, it's not only French in France, it's not only French spoken by a French person, but it is French spoken by 321 million people all around the world. Okay? So let's look at some fun facts because I know it's a boring topic, so I thought these things will be interesting for you and you'll remember them maybe in a week's time or maybe in a month's time. So remember what I told you, that French is the 5th most spoken language in the world. Mandarin, English, Spanish, and Arabic are the other 4 languages before French. It is the 2nd most learned language. Many people learn French, which is sad because they don't speak it. Can you see the difference between those who learn French and those who speak French? All right. So all of us who are learning French today, we have to learn how to speak it properly. All right. Because if we do that, remember, French will go from the 5th rank to maybe the 2nd rank or something. Because if we are a huge 51 million of us are learning the language today. That is number 2. The number 2 largest group of students in the world learning a language are the French students. Keep that in your mind. All right. And like I told you, it's the 4th most used language in internet searches. So how did French become so important? How did it become such a huge factor outside France? Number 1, because of France and Belgium. They were the 2 colonizing powers in the 19th and 20th, and maybe even the 18th century. My history is bad, so I'm just guessing here. Definitely 19th, definitely earlier 20th century. But because of their past colonization strategies, when they left countries, those countries continued using French in their daily life. All right? And these countries are known as the Dromcom. Let's look at the Dromcom first. Dromcom, did you know that France has many departments within its geographical limits in Europe? But it also has certain departments outside of France. So these are colonies. When the time came for them to become independent, they said we don't want to be independent. We want to stay part of France. So these 4-5 states are known as the Département ou bien les régions d'outre-mer. Outre-mer means overseas departments and regions. All right. And you also have collectivité outre-mer, which are known as the COM. So DROM means departments, COM is collectivité. The department and regions are fully connected to France. Everything is like it happens in France today. The collectivities are more autonomous. They have their own system of government and all that, but they are still linked to France. All right. And all two of them together are known as les DROM-COM. So these are the first base countries of the Francophone countries today. So you can see why it is important today. Earlier it was because of DROM-COM, only these 5, 10, 15 areas used to practice French. Today French is much more widely used because it is good to know French for tourism, for education, for cultural exchanges and for work. So when you know that there's certain parts of the world where you will have an easier time if you know French and you learn French, remember you're becoming part of the Francophone work culture. Right? So these are the names of the DROM-COM. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have a fifth one, La Réunion. 5, Guyane, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Mayotte and Réunion. And then you have the collectivities, Saint-Martin, Polynésie Française, France, Wallis et Futuna. You also have spots in the Arctic and Antarctic pole where research is carried out, and you have this island called Saint-Barthélemy. That's all. And you have one more island there. Okay. So here are the countries. I found this lovely map. You can see they're all over the place. You have some in the Indian Ocean. You have some here near Africa. You have some in South America. You have some near North America. So they're all over the world. These are the former countries that had been colonized, and they're still part of France today. All right? But this is a wider map. Remember, you have two parts, places where French is spoken and places where you have a lot of economic and cultural and linguistic cooperation happening. So this is a wider map which shows you the impact of Francophonie today. It's no longer French, it's no longer the DROM-COM, it is all these areas where French is practiced. All right? So where you have the dark red, like Quebec in Canada and France over here, and you also have Gabon here in Africa, everything is totally French. And then you have variations as you go into the other countries. All right? So here is a brief summary of the les pays francophones. Pays, remember, means countries. So here you have all the countries where French is spoken today and used in various forms. France and its 13 DROM-COM, we saw that list. In Europe, French is spoken in Belgium, Luxembourg, Monaco, and also in Switzerland. Different dialects, but the main language is French. 55% of the Francophone countries are in Africa. In Asia, you have Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. This is they used to be colonized once upon a time, but they're totally independent now. But they still have the French legacy, very vibrant and alive. In India, you know Pondicherry. Many people may not know that Yanam and Mahe are part of the Francophone umbrella, and definitely Chandanagar up there in Bengal. In Canada, you have this place called Quebec. And in America, you have certain pockets. For example, Louisiana. All right? So you see that in each of our continents, there is French spoken in either a small part or a large part. Therefore, you can see how important Francophonie is, because it's no longer just a French concern. It belongs to the entire world. D'accord? So knowing this is a very dry topic, I decided we look at some of the names of restaurants in Pondicherry. So the first is Café Veloute. Do you know what Veloute means? Have you heard of the word Veloute when you go to any of our Indian restaurants? Have you seen the word Veloute? No? Yes?
No, ma'am.
Veloute is it's a velvety soup. All right? So you have a cafe called Café Veloute in Pondicherry. Baker Street is English name, but the restaurant is completely French. Carte blanche. Have you heard of this term in English? Carte blanche. She has a carte blanche. No? It means she can go, it's a free pass. She can go wherever she wants, carte blanche. But that's the name of a restaurant in Pondicherry. And then you have the duplex restaurant. Now, don't think about our duplex housings, two houses, one on top of the other here in Chennai. Duplex is the name of the French person, the French governor, who was in charge of Pondicherry for a very long time. If you visited Pondicherry Beach, there's a statue of a French guy at one side, and you have Mahatma Gandhi on the other side. So the statue of the fellow on opposite Mahatma Gandhi at the end of the beach is duplex. All right, he's a very famous French politician. You have the Café des Arts, and the last one is what really I fell in love with: crepe in touch. What is the crepe? Is a pancake, but look at the word and tell me what you think the restaurant is trying to play on. Crepe in touch. Crepe in touch. What does it sound like in English? Crepe in touch. Crepe in touch. No idea?
To have a connectivity.
Exactly. Keep in touch. They've played on the English words, keep in touch, and they've changed it into French, and they couldn't think of how to say keep in French. So they transformed it into crepe, because crepe is a pancake. So you go to this restaurant and you connect with each other. All right? So these are some fun facts about restaurants in Puducherry. All right. Food. Francophonie involves food, right? So the first one, the first picture on your top left, cheese. Who can tell me the French word for cheese? What is the French word for cheese?
Fromage, ma'am.
Fromage, very good. Fromage. And this is not French cheese, actually, it's Quebecois cheese. It's cheese from Quebec in France. So that is the heritage French gave to the Canadian cuisine, their cheeses. All right? Okay, the next one, I hope I have done it, is the baguette. Have you heard of the baguette? What is the baguette? Baguette. There. What is the baguette? What does it mean? Think of French food. What is the baguette?
Ma'am, it's basically a bread which French people eat.
Voila. But this is not France. This picture is from Vietnam. Because one of the legacies that French left in Vietnam was their love for the baguette. So the baguette in Vietnam, if you look at it, is small and fat. That is the French baguette. If you've seen pictures of it, it's long and thin. But it tastes the same, I'm told. I've never been to Vietnam. And they have revolved their own kitchen around it, cuisine around it. All right? The third one you may not know. Have you heard of couscous? When I used this word to my students, they all started laughing. Couscous. But this is a semolina dish which is African, but it has influenced French cuisine today. So you see, the development is not only French influence on other countries, but other countries have also influenced French culture and cuisine and words, as we will see later. All right? And the last one, I found this just by Hazar. I have a Pondicherrian friend, and she talked about this mean bouillabaisse. Mean bouillabaisse, she called it. Can you think of the French term this comes from? What do you think the French term is? If you've seen the movie Ratatouille, you may remember. Have you heard about this dish that I put in the chat? Bouillabaisse. Bouillabaisse. The spelling is wrong. Bouillabaisse. I think this is it. I'm sure it is wrong. But have you heard of bouillabaisse? It's a French soup. All right? And the Pondicherrians now have their version called mean bouillabaisse. So see what the French left behind. They went into food. They took some food with them back to France, and they gave some ideas about how French food is when they left. All right? So let's go to Francophonie. Now, the Francophonie is part of the cultural aspect of Francophonie. It is a society which organizes annual music festivals inviting Francophone musicians from all around the world. All right? So this year it's happening in La Rochelle. It always happens in La Rochelle in July. This year it is happening on the 12th to 14th July. I went to their website and you can pick and choose who you want to listen to. You have to buy tickets. It's a wonderful annual music festival. Now, remember, it's a confederation. It's not only related to France, it's a Francophonie event. So you have 7 such music festivals all over the world. Europe, Belgium, Luxembourg, Montreal is in Canada. Bulgaria is in. Where is Bulgaria? Who can tell me where Bulgaria is? Have you heard of Bulgaria? Where is Bulgaria? Bulgar. No? Bulgaria is in Europe, somewhere near Russia. Réunion is a French island near Africa, and then you have New Caledonia, which is somewhere near the Pacific Ocean. All right? Now let's go to dialects. French is proper French in France, but when you go to other countries, people mix up their language in French. Just like when we speak English in Chennai, we mix up Tamil and English, and we speak our brand of English, right? Like, for example, once when I was sitting in an airport in France, I saw a mother telling her child, avion paru, and I was wondering what does avion paru mean, and then I realized it's like we would tell our children or our friends in Tamil and English, plain or paru, all right? So you have mixtures of languages with French all over the world. So in Vietnam, this is the word of the dialect. This is the name of the dialect is a mixture of French and other Vietnamese languages, Thai, Boi, Pidgin. All right. In the Dromcom, it is Creole, French Creole, and it is Nuchi in Ivory Coast. So remember, these are all French dialects, mixtures of French and local languages all over the world. So let's have some fun now. You have some Francophone expressions here and the countries next to them. And on the other side, I have put the translations. So let's can you try and guess? Alea Gundai in Belgium means to go out partying. It's a Belgian expression. Gundai is Belgian, Ale is French. Put them together and you have a Francophone expression. So tirer une bouche in Quebec means to pull yourself a chair, because a bouche, remember, is a log. In those days, there were no chairs. You went to visit somebody, you had to pull a log of wood and sit on it. So tirer une bouche is to pull yourself a chair. Casse-moi l'eau literally means break my bones. But it actually means shake my hand, because the way the Cameroonian people have of shaking hands and clicking their fingers sounds like somebody's bones are being broken. I like number 4, sucre le coeur. Sucre, means sugar. Coeur means heart. So this means when you see somebody, your heart is really happy. It's full of sugar. This next one, my students really laughed. Tablette de chocolat. Actually doesn't mean anything nice. It's not a bar of chocolate. It's actually a terrible hole with potholes. It's just like a bar of chocolate. If you look at the perspective, you have a down part and then you have a up part, then you have a pothole and then it goes up and it's all muddy and brown because the tar is washed away. So a terrible road with horrible potholes is a tablette de chocolat in Senegal. In Haiti, when you say someone is like lait, which means milk, and citron, which means lime, it actually means they are fighting like a cat and a dog. When you put lime and milk, it separates. All right. In Quebec, when you see someone in your soup, voir quelqu'un dans sa soupe. When you see someone in your soup, that means you're completely in love with somebody. So when you look down in your soup, you see that person's face. And then a personne champagne is somebody who's very influential in Congo. So see how they've taken French and they've used their own culture and background and brought out beautiful expressions that define themselves and give their identity to the language. If you can go to this website, it's a lovely website, contemois.net, Contemois francophone, in which you have, look at the left-hand side, you have all the countries where you have francophone stories, contes of story, and if you click on some version over here, Conte-moi la lecture, that means you can hear somebody reading the story for you. So you can see the hard copy of the story, the print of the story, and you can also have, it's like an audiobook. So go to the site and listen to some francophone stories. Some of them are really interesting because remember, this is cultures from all around the world, and some of the stories are really interesting. They're not like our fairy tales, Cinderella and all that. They're not like our Indian stories. They're completely different. So do go to this website and listen to a few stories. Now I told you that Francophonie has its own celebration on the 20th of March every year. They release 10 words. The name of the competition is Dis-moi, tell me 10 words. So every year they release 10 words and they would like you to think about these words, have competitions on these words. Talking of competitions, this is Association of Indian Teachers of French, EATF, and they are organizing a collage competition on these words. You can take any of these three words and make a collage and send it to them. I will send a copy of the invitation guidelines to Kamakshi ma'am and she can share it with you students. So these are the 10 words anyway. On one side you have the 10 words, année lumière, déjà vu, lambiné, tic-tac, synchrone, plus que parfait, dar. And on the other side I've translated them into English. So the first one is easy, right? What is it? Who can tell me what année lumière is? You can choose from what you have in the middle of the screen. What is année lumière? Is it very fast? Is it very slow? Is it tick-tock? Is it light year? What is année lumière?
Light year, ma'am.
Light year, very good, light year. Light year, if you remember, means a measurement of speed. If you're a Star Wars or I forget the other thing, Captain Spock, I forget his series, but if you're a fan about those futuristic space programs, you'll understand this light year, the term light year very much. Deja vu, have you heard about it? It's there in English too. Deja vu.
Ma'am, already seen.
Yes, already seen. There was even a Hollywood movie about it. Already seen, already lived. Deja vu. You see something, sometimes you've dreamt about it and forgotten about it, and then you see it and you have this weird feeling that you've already seen it. Deja vu. Alright, so that is deja vu. Lombine, you may not know. Lombine, think of a lamb, very slow. So it actually means, I forgot these. So it actually means very slow. Alright, somebody who walks very slowly, est en train de lombiner. She's walking very slowly. Tic-tac, I think you will get from the sound. Tic-tac is what the clock says in French, but in English, what does it say? Yes, tick-tock. D'accord? So remember when you're doing your essays and you're talking about the clock that is making the tick-tick sound, you have to say tic-tac, whereas in English it is tick-tock. Synchrone is synchronous. It means things that are happening together at the same time, like synchronic swimming, people doing actions together at the same time. Nowadays, your cell phone is in sync with your emails and things like that. So synchrone means simultaneous. Plus que parfait. Can anyone guess from what is left? You have very fast, you have to give rhythm to something, you have wintering, utterly perfect, and dawn. What do you think plus que parfait is?
Utterly perfect.
Utterly perfect, very good, utterly perfect. Dar is a sound that means very fast, all right? It's a new word for me. I'm sure it comes from an African country. Dardar. See, all these words are not French words, they're Francophone words. They've been chosen from around the world. So, dardar means very fast. Rhythme is to give rhythm to something, like when you're listening to music, you're clicking your fingers, you're shaking your head, you're tapping your fingers, your hands. So, that is rhythme. What do you think avant jour means? Avant means before and jour means day. So, what is avant jour?
Dawn, ma'am.
Dawn, very good, dawn. And the last one, hivernage, is wintering. We don't have this concept in India, but it has many things that are referred to wintering. For example, the food you gather for your animals when they can't go out and forage is known as wintering. So it's a very different concept from what we're used to. All right. So remember, these 10 words are the 10 words that have been released by the OEF, the Francophonie Association this year, and you can choose any 3. You can make a collage in French, of course, and you can send it. I will send the affiche, the poster of the competition to Kameshwari ma'am, and you can participate in this event. All right? Okay. Now let's go to some famous personalities. Here are the words. You tell me who's who. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You tell me who's who. Who's the lady on the top left? Everybody should know her.
Celine Dion, ma'am.
Celine Dion, very good. She's from Canada. All right. Next to her, he's a French actor, but he comes in Hollywood movies now. Can you guess him? He came in that Godzilla movie also, the old one. No, it's Jean Reno. Jean Reno. Next to him, you have the guy in the black coat. He also is familiar. He's also a French actor who's made it big in Hollywood now. His name is Vincent. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 is the black and white fellow at the bottom. Hergé. I've told you who he is. Hergé. Do you know who Hergé is? Think of French cartoons.
Tintin.
Voila. Yes. The author of Tintin, Hergé. All right? He's passed away now, so we have only a black and white photo of him. And then Vincent Cassel is the man with the black coat that I was talking about. He's an actor, French actor, very famous now in Hollywood. And finally, you have Leopold Senghor at the bottom. He used to be the president of Senegal. He was one of the strong people who brought about this OEF, Organization of Francophonie, and he did a lot for French literature. So although he's a Senegalese man, he got French nationality also, but he is known more for his immensity in the Francophone field. All right? Okay, so this is Hergé. Hergé. His name is actually George Remy, and Hergé is the short form of his surname, which is Remy, and J from George. So he clubbed it both together and he brought out the word Hergé. So this is the comic, the Captain Haddock comics. It is a Belgian comic. Everybody thinks it's French. It's actually Belgian, but now we can call it Francophone. All right. And you also have a website dedicated to Tintin, or in French we call them Tintin. Remember, Tintin. It's no longer Tintin in French. It is Tintin. So these are his compatriots. You have Captain Haddock. You have Tintin. Milou is the name of the dog in English. Do you know the name? Do you remember the name of the dog? Tintin's dog?
Snowy.
Voila. In French, it is Milou. In English, it is Snowy. These are the twins, the two detectives who are always getting into trouble. In French, they are Dupont with the D and Dupont with the T. It sounds the same. Dupont. In English, do you remember their names? The twins?
Thompson and Thompson.
Yes, voila. So there also you have the P and the no P, but it sounds the same. Thompson and Thompson. Dupont. All right. And then you have Professor Tournesol. Tournesol means sunflower. But there's only one professor in the Tintin comics. So can you tell me his name? Professor, starts with C. If you're a math student, you can guess it. Professor Calculus. All right, in French, he's known as the sunflower teacher, because if you look at the cartoon of him, he always stands in a funny way. He looks like a sunflower. And then, of course, you have Nestor, who is the butler. Okay. Now, why I love comics, francophone comics, especially Tintin, is because you have the English comics and the French comics, and it's easy for you to read them if you put them side by side. So this is Tintin, a few pictures from Tintin in Quebec. You read the French comic and you read the English comic, and you can understand it so easily. So how do you say red fort in French? Look at the French comic, it is Fort Rouge. All right? Qutub Minar is the same height. So whenever you have an English comic, now one thing you can do is you can go online, you can find the PDFs of these comics in French, and you read the French comic and you look at the English comic, and you'll be able to look at the French words and compare them. And why I really love these comics is the detail given to the drawing. Now remember, this was before technology started helping people do cartoons. This was in the 60s and 70s when somebody had to sit with a pencil and a pen and a crayon and create these pictures. But look at the clarity of the pictures. That's what I enjoy in the old Tintin comics, because it shows what a beautiful sketcher Hergé was. Okay. Another comic you should know is Astérix Le Gaulois. This is a complete French comic. Tintin was Belgian, Tintin was Belgian. Astérix Le Gaulois is completely French. The two authors are Uderzo and Goscinny. Hergé was unique because he did the pictures and he did the writing himself. Uderzo and Goscinny, one was a writer, one was the picture maker. So they have even written a comic called Astérix chez Rahazad, and it's actually Asterix and Obelix and the entire company coming to India. So you can read this if you want. It's really interesting. I think it's Asterix in India in English. I'm not very sure, but in French it is Astérix chez Rahazad, which is the name of the princess. They come to rescue the princess, by the way. Okay. This is another interesting comic. It's called Therese. It was written by this person called Van Ham, who was a fan of Robert Ludlum. And if you remember the word Robert Ludlum, maybe you may remember him. If not, you would definitely remember the spy thriller. It came in 4 parts. Jason Bourne. Do you remember that? The Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Identity, the Bourne Legacy. So Robert Ludlum started that series. He has a series of books in English. Van Ham loved the idea, and he brought out this comic called Therese, because it's a story about a man who wakes up one day and he only has this Therese tattoo on him. He doesn't know who he is, just like Jason Bourne. And the entire comic series is about this person trying to find out who he is. And it's interesting because apparently you have Diamond Comics in Tamil in India, in Tamil Nadu, and they have translated it. I was not able to find anything. But apparently in those old days, they have translated the entire Therese 13 into Tamil. If I could get if I could get hold of those old comics, it'll really be a pleasure. Nowadays, you have many modern comics. French people like making fun of everything. So they have a comic series based on a coast guard, people who look after swimming pools, people who auto-école, people who go to the driving school, gendarme, the policeman, okay, pompier. What do you think pompier is? When I first saw this word, I thought it was someone who pumped water, but it's actually a fireman. All right. Chantier, workers, civil workers. Fonctionnaire, civil servants, government employees. So they just make fun of every part of French society. They just love laughing at each other, which is something I really like about France. I don't see that in many countries at all. But they live by their definition of freedom of expression, where you can laugh at each other and, not hurt each other. All right. So that's it. That's the end of my presentation. You can see how important Francophony is. It's not only language, it's music, it's food, it's culture, it's it's everything. It's everything to do education. It's everything to do with the French language, and it's not only France. It's countries all over the world. All right. So if you have any doubts, I can clarify them. It's already 7:30, so
Yeah. So the clear expression. The francophonie et la francophonie. Nous avons reçu assez d'informations sur ce sujet. Je vous remercie de votre participation pour faire l'émission France. Chers demandez à Madame Madri. If you have any questions, you can ask her. Students, have any questions?
Jayant called. He wanted.
Can ask if you want anything of our ministry want to be clarified.
I don't think they have doubts, Commissioner.
Hope you have understood everything and got a good information, enough information about the francophonie et la francophonie. That's it. Now, let's see on the shall we wind the session?
No doubts, madam.
Yeah, we can wind on side. Let's see.
Merci, madam. Merci, madam.
Madam.
Yes. C'était un plaisir. Merci.
Merci, ma'am. Okay.
Merci, madam.
De rien. De rien.
Merci, madam.
De rien.
Yeah. Oh, where are they? I see this one.
Ok. Bye bye. Au revoir. Bonne soirée à tout le
Au
monde.
revoir. Au revoir.
Yeah.
I want to